Amber with It's Glitter Bish, where glitter is our favorite color around here. Welcome to my very first tutorial and video. I recently posted a picture of one of my new mountain range mugs and just had a really great response. A lot of people asking it for a tutorial on how to make it. So here we are on YouTube. I did just want to say a few key things before we start on this video. I will be doing a raffle for the mug that we're making in this tutorial today. So if you would like to enter, I am going to include a link to my Facebook group down in the description box below, and all the information by the time I post this will be posted in my group. Also, a second thing, I am also going to be including all of the products that we used in the description box. So if you have a question, just head down there. All the information should be down there. If there's anything I missed out on or that you still have questions on, feel free to ask in the comments and I will do my absolute best to reply. If not, you can always send me a message in my Facebook group as well. So thank you so much for introducing me to the tutorial community, and I hope that you learned something new today. So enjoy. Thank you.
So this is a 15-ounce Stemmy Mug from Stainless Steel Depot. I have it sanded, spray painted white as a base, and we're going to start with our ombre. We're using all glitters from Peachy Olive Glitters. We're doing St. Jude, Sweet Georgia Peach, and one of my favorite pinks of all time called Wednesdays. So I already added my epoxy. We're doing the epoxy method for this. I have about 15 milliliters of epoxy on my mug. And what I always do when I start with my ombres is I start from the top on bottom. And I always do just a straight line at the very top, mainly because we're going to go over this at least 2 times and I want my deepest color at the very top of the cup. So I'll start with a line, and I'm relatively close to my mug just so we can get nice and even. And then you'll see right there I go way up high, and this starts kind of blending and fanning out my color. It also goes over the color we've already gone over. So again, it really starts that nice shift in color. And you'll see I'm trying to get it as even as possible, and don't forget your handle, of course. And now on to the next color. We're going to do Sweet Georgia Peach next, and we're pretty much just going to follow the same exact process. Pretty close to my mug, I'm going to do that straight line of glitter along the top, just to get that really deep gradient of color. And then we're going to take it up high and start fanning out. And you'll see I'm fanning out towards the bottom. And then here in a second, I'll start doing the same fanning out in towards the pink color. Again, that's going to blend both colors really well and get that beautiful ombre that we're looking for. Now, when I use the epoxy method for glittering, I just use sheets of paper underneath. They're cheap, they're easy to move, and if you're doing multiple colors, they're just really easy to kind of just set aside and then eventually pour back into your jar of glitter. Now we're going to do our last glitter, which is, of course, St. Jude. This is my favorite yellow, hands down. It is just so gorgeous, and the sparkle on this is just absolutely stunning. So again, we're going to do the same thing. Get close to that mug. We're going to do a nice line across the top, and then we're just going to fill in the rest of the bottom. Now it's up to you if you do want to go all the way down for your glitter, because we're going to be covering up, you know, pretty much the bottom third of the cup. I, however, like to do that just to make sure that there's no unevenness when we go in an epoxy. Really nice and even, and then it gives me more flexibility when I make my mountains, you know, on later. And here is really where the true magic happens. We're going to go back over and relayer. So we're going to relayer our Sweet Georgia Peach because it's right in the middle and it's really the true blending color in this. So we're just going to go over and just really deepen that middle Sweet Georgia Peach, really make it pop again, and then really start fanning it out towards the top as well as the bottom. And do it again with a little bit of yellow. And this is what it looks like. Gorgeous, isn't it? So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna let this cure for 12 hours and then I'm gonna cover it with a layer of epoxy and then we're gonna do our clouds. So when I do clouds, I use this Easy Flow epoxy pigment from Armor Art. You can also use just good old white acrylic paint if you like. Add a few dots in to your epoxy. This is just left over from epoxying cups. Really doesn't take a lot for this step. So get it nice and mixed up, and then we're just going to take a popsicle stick and we're just going to make little squiggly lines all over the cup. Make sure that you go all the way up because again, we're painting a sky. You don't just want it just in the middle. And I like to make sure they're nice and squiggly to really give them some good movement. I take my popsicle stick and kind of draw lines through them to again give them more movement and just make sure that they're really even. You don't want, it to be a big glob of epoxy and then kind of fan out. You really want to make sure that they're nice and flowy on each side. Once I apply as many as what looks good to me, I'll just take my heat gun and diffuse them a little bit. I don't add a ton of heat because I don't want them, running everywhere, just enough to kind of fan out the epoxy so it doesn't just look like paint on my cup. When you think about a beautiful sunrise or sunset, you think about the color in the clouds. And when you diffuse them out a little bit, it really allows you to see that beautiful color of your glitters through. And to me, just makes them look really whimsical. So here you can still see the colors below. You can still see, the white of the clouds. And they just look absolutely lovely. So I've let my clouds cure for at least 12 hours and now it's time to make our mountains. So all you're going to need for this step is an X-Acto knife, some painter's tape, as well as a pen. And all you're going to start doing is wrapping your cup about 3/4 of the way down with your painter's tape. It's up to you if you want to do your handle or not. I like to personally cover the handle just so that people can really see that beautiful ombre that you did. And we're just going to wrap away, and once that wrapped, we're going to carve out our mountains. Now that our cup is wrapped, we're going to push down those little gaps in the painter's tape just to make sure that no paint seeps down through there. If it does, it's really no big deal. You can just take some acetone on a Q-tip and kind of, clean up those spots. But hey, one less step is one less step, right? Now that our cup is nice and secure, it's going to be time to map out our mountains. So you can take any pen, any marker, and just draw the silhouette of your mountains. For this one, I'm going to be freehanding. In the past, I've actually just gone to good old Google and looked out, just Googled silhouettes of mountains and used those as my inspiration. And as you're doing this, just be aware that you do want to go pretty up high, but then you also want to dip your mountain ranges low, just to make sure that in those valleys, you're really getting a good depth of that ombre that you did. Don't let it go to waste. It's too beautiful not to share. And there's really no right or wrong when you're doing your mountains. They're completely organic. Make them bumpy, make them straight. I mean, you can do however you want to do them. So this is the silhouette of our mountains. I wanted to show you just what the drawings look like before we carved them out. And now it's time to grab our X-Acto knife and carve them out, and we'll remove the tape underneath the mountains, leaving the top pieces. Pretty simple. Make sure when you're using your X-Acto knife, always carve away from your arm, please. X-Acto knife 101. We're all about safety here. No cutting off your fingers, you hear? All right, now it's time to start removing that tape and seeing what's down below. This tape is super sticky. You can see I have issues getting it off. And when you're removing your tape, make sure if you are taping up your handle, leave it on there. Don't remove your tape because we're going to start painting next. Alright, so after all that tape is removed, this is what it looks like. So we're actually going to be going and spray painting our mountains here in a second. And once that paint is dry, it's going to be time for the big reveal. It's my absolute favorite part of making these mugs is when you remove all that tape and you see how gorgeous your mountains are. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time for my terrible filming skills here. Apparently I had absolutely no concept of where my camera was. So we're going to be using 3 colors to ombre. We're going to be using a flat white, French lilac, and silver lilac, kind of more of like a dusty lilac color. And when we do this, I'm going to start initially from the bottom up. So I'm going in with my silver lilac. I'm going to cover the bottom as well as start doing the fanning from the top. Then I'm going to go in with my French lilac on top and get that really nice ombre gradient of color. And that's going to cover a majority of my mug right there is going to be that French lilac. And then just at the very tippy tops of the mountains where the mountain peak is, that's where we're going to just do a dusting of white so that they look like snow-capped mountains. Once I do that, I'm going to go back in with my French lilac as well as in again with my silver lilac. So we have really good gradients. We have a beautiful blending of all 3 colors and we really get that nice depth. Again, finishing off with that little dusting of white to get those just classical, snow-capped mountains. So I let the cup dry for at least 2 hours. This is what it looks like. And now I'm going to remove the tape. This is my favorite part where you really get to see how beautiful your mountains are. Ta-da! Look at how gorgeous. So you see how you really want to go up to the top with your mountains and then really have those beautiful valleys down below. You get a good look at that ombre. You can see the depth and it just really looks like a beautiful sunset sky in the back. Now it's decal time. So I have my transfer tape. I printed off some stars. And then, of course, I have my forestscape here. I will link the Etsy file that I used. And then I just got a moon off of Google. And I'm doing a print and cut for those. So I'm going to cut off that big chunk of black on the bottom just because we're going to hack our bottom of our mug, which I'll show you here in a second. And when we do this, it's almost impossible to do a full wrap around the bottom. I mean, on a curved mug like this, it's just not happening without a ton of crazy creases. So I'm going to show you what I do. So I'm actually going to map out where I want my decal, and we're going to cut this in strips. We're going to layer it piece by piece. I promise it doesn't take as long as it sounds, but it's totally worth it. So I'm going to cut a little strip, maybe, I don't know, 1.5 inches thick or so. I'm going to add my transfer tape. I personally use Duck brand contact paper as all of my transfer tape. It's cheap, it's amazing, and it works every time. So we're going to place, and when I pop my decal on, I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to press down, going up down the middle of the decal. So right in the square middle, I'm going to press it down, and then I'm going to push my decals out on either side. So first I'm going to start with one side, the right side, and then I'm going to push down towards the bottom the rest of my decal. This gets it beautifully flat. Sometimes there's little creases, but not enough to where they're going to be horrible. And as you can see right there, it's flat, it's beautiful. Again, do not worry about the bottom because we're going to take care of that. So again, I'm going to cut another little strip. I'm going to flatten it out with my little tool there, lift it up, and then to the best of my abilities, I'm going to line it up. When I line it up, I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to press down the middle of my decal, and then you can see I'm going to start pushing it down towards the sides, and I'm kind of doing out and down at the same time. So I did it with one side, now I'm going to do it with the other side. Sometimes there's creases, sometimes not. This one I had really not a lot of creases, so I was really happy. If there are creases, I personally just take my fingernail, you can use a scraping tool, scrape it down really well. A lot of the times that will just really push it flat, but if it's not flat, no worries. Take an X-Acto knife, just cut it off. It's okay if you can see the paint down below. It's no worries because, again, we're going to hack the bottom here in just a second. So we're just going to repeat this process all around our mug. Do it in little strips, apply down the middle, press down on each side going down. So this is what it looks like. There was a little gap, so I ended up just filling it in with a little bit of vinyl. And now it's time to finish adding our decals. So I'm going to add these beautiful stars. I can't remember where I got them. I want to say it was just in Design Space. I have to triple check, but we're going to add our stars just everywhere. And make sure that you have placement for your moon. Add our moon. So this is what the cup looks like with all of our decals applied. Looks absolutely gorgeous. And now for my very last secret of this cup. What we're going to do is we're going to hack the very bottom. All we're going to do is take 2 sheets of plain white paper and some painter's tape, and we're going to tape off and shield the rest of the mug, exposing just the bottom. All you have to do is take some black spray paint and you're going to spray the bottom, let it fully dry, and then start sealing it with epoxy. Once the epoxy hits, all of that vinyl as well as the paint and any creases that you might see are just going to completely disappear, making your cup just absolutely flawless. So here in a second, it's going to show you the ending of the mug. So thank you so much for watching our tutorial. I think this cup turned out amazing. Again, if you want to enter the raffle to win this exact cup, click on the link to my Facebook group down in the description box below. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see your mountain range mugs.